Hi, this is Bruce, and welcome to my vlog. And this is Alphie. Say hi, buddy. Alphie is a 14-year-old Persian, and he has CRF, which is chronic renal failure. So he's in stage 4 now, which means that me and my wife have some really hard decisions to make. Hey, you went down, buddy boy? So we have to make these decisions here fairly soon because we want him to be comfortable. We don't want him to suffer. And he's recently began just hanging out in my office with me all day long and being very lethargic, acting confused, having a little bit of difficulty with eating and drinking. So this is very common in older cats, geriatric cats. I guess in human years, he'd be the equivalent of about going on 80 years old. And I think any pet owner can identify when you have one that you love and they're part of the family, that it's a tough decision to make. But we have to do what's best for him and not necessarily what we want. And so we'll be talking to our vet here the next day or so about discussing, if there's anything else left we can do, but we don't want to see him suffer. So that's tough. Also, I thought I would show you within the vlog some of my disappointment with the direction Apple is going, and I'm looking at this strictly as a through the video editing eyes and desktop productivity point of view. I was hoping that the new Mac Mini, I knew one of two things were going to happen. Either A, Apple would drop it completely, or B, there would be a refresh. I mean, that makes sense. What I didn't think would happen is the lackluster refresh that Apple, came across, provided to us. This refresh took away things like quad-core i7s. It took away the ability to upgrade the RAM. And even though there was this $100 price cut, I think, it simply, to say that it was underwhelming is an understatement. And I think that what I'm seeing the general direction of Apple going right now is one where, they're throwaway machines. You buy them, and that's the way they come, and you use them till they no longer work, and you throw them away, or certainly resell them. So, because you're just not going to be able to upgrade them, really. I think Apple is trying to move away from upgradable machines. I'm very disappointed in that fact. Now, I enjoy video editing. It's a nice, I enjoy making YouTube videos. I enjoy editing. I enjoy, all this stuff. But I also have a budget. I have to live within my means. And since the Mac Mini is now ruled out as a potentially new machine to run Final Cut Pro on, that leaves either a MacBook Pro, an iMac, or a Mac Pro, 3 different machines. And the problem with the MacBook Pro, Final Cut Pro, loves memory. And right now you can only get with 16 gigabytes of memory. That's maxing it out. You can't expand the memory on it. So pretty much it's a non-upgradable machine. The iMac, the 27-inch, you can expand the memory, but here's my problem. I'm not a big fan of all-in-one desktop PCs. I get, a laptop is technically an all-in-one, but they're designed to be mobile. There's a reason why they exist. I don't like all-in-one PCs, to be quite frank with you. I don't like the fact that you can't really adjust the screen unless you do a build-to-order Visa mount, and that's something I really don't want to get into. And also, I know a number of people whose iMacs have failed over a course of 3 to 4 years. And that could be due to heat or a number of issues. But that concerns me a lot, especially when you get into that $3,000 for a desktop PC category. And that's kind of the, when you start getting memory and you upgrade the hard drive and you do all this stuff to it, and you get Apple Care, you get around the $3,000 mark for these things, or close to it. And then that leaves the Mac Pro, which The entry fee is $3,000, but realistically, one that would work well for if you were doing a lot of video editing would be the $4,000 model. So I thought, okay, Final Cut Pro only runs on Mac, and my options are becoming more limited. What else could I do if I said I didn't really, if I wanted to change platforms, what else is available? And of course, that leaves, there's Sony Vegas and there's others out there, but there's also Premiere Pro and Adobe CC. And because I use Audition to record my podcast, I'm now trialing Adobe Creative Cloud. And my initial impressions on Premiere, it runs great on the PC, by the way. It renders and encodes very, very quickly. It's got a steeper learning curve to it. In other words, it's not as user-friendly, in my opinion, as Final Cut Pro 10, because Final Cut Pro 10, if you don't have any preconceived notions of how video editing should work with bins and all this stuff, timelines, etc., then Final Cut Pro 10 is actually, I think, simpler to use and to learn, at least for the basic stuff. But the flip side of the coin is that Adobe Premiere will run on PC and Mac both. And it's kind of a balancing act because Final Cut Pro 10 has a lot of things built into it that you will have to use After Effects for on CC. You can really just buy Final Cut Pro 10. That's all you need. You don't need motion, really. You don't need compressor, really. You can pretty much do everything in Final Cut Pro 10, although motion is nice and it's only $50. But in the world of Creative Cloud, I don't think you get by just with Premiere Pro in and of itself. I think you have to get After Effects with it if you want to do things like lower thirds and other cool stuff. Then you got to have that. Well, with the Creative Cloud subscription, you're $20 for Premiere, and then $20 a piece for each other app, or everything for $50 a month. Well, that's $600 a year subscription. Over the course of 3 years, you paid $1,800. With Final Cut Pro, you pay the $300 and you're done. So it's really a conundrum what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm under no pressure, and that's the good thing. I don't do this for a living, so it's more of a hobby platform. So I can make my Mac Pro and Final Cut Pro work for a while longer, but I don't think it would handle 4K very well. Especially when we get to 4K, 60 FPS, I just don't think that's going to work out. It's getting long in the tooth. I've upgraded the machine. All I'm going to. SSD. A GTX or an NVIDIA GTX 660 video card. USB 3.0 PCIe card, expansion card. USB 3 hub. I've done just about every upgrade you could possibly do to one that you still stay within that realm of financial self. Financial sense. If this was a dual quad core, it would have several more years of good life left in it, but it's not. And I never really thought about that when I bought it. I just got a really good deal on it back in 2010, January 2010. So that's kind of the conundrum that I'm looking at. Because video editing is something I enjoy. I don't plan on doing it professionally. You never know. But Final Cut Pro is what I like to use, but yet Apple, I'm just disappointed in the general direction that their hardware is going off into. And it seems like they're taking more and more choice away and kind of zoning you in to say, $3,000, $4,000 computer is what you're going to need to run this $300 piece of software. Or do I, use the PC, which I can put a whale of a nice system together for, half of that amount. But I've got to rent the Adobe Creative Cloud. And you could try Sony Vegas and some others, but I've tried some others and I've been quite frankly disappointed with them. But Premiere works brilliantly on the PC. So that is kind of how my weekend's going. I'm evaluating Premiere Pro and dealing with the cat, and so yeah, that's. And I was asked recently, hey, don't you vlog anymore? And I said, well, you know, it has been a while, and so I'm just bringing everybody up to date with what's going on. So decisions to be made, and I will let people know in the perhaps even next video what we're going to do with Alphie. We want to do the right thing, and this is a devastating disease, and you don't want to watch them waste away. You just don't want to do that either. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching the vlog. Talk to you later.